Wait. I just want to stop you there. It's so funny how your brother was passed out in the street and you're inside eating udon.
No, but I was looking at him. I never lost.
Okay.
You know, I was still a good sister.
So this is an episode that I'm personally very interested and passionate about because we get to talk about kind of the intersection of technology and culture. And to be more specific, we're going to be talking about the developments in camera technology and how this really affects kind of both the consumer photographers and also the professional photographers. And specifically, I want to talk about social media and developments in smartphone cameras. So today we have a very special guest, Justin Haugen, who's a professional photographer, and he's going to be joining us today for the talk. So Hushmama, do you want to talk about kind of how you guys met?
Oh, right. Yeah. So Justin's my friend. We met like 2 years ago. And it's a really, really funny story. Not even Shin knows this because Justin and I were like...
They've been keeping it secret from me for the episode.
Because we also met on the streets. For those of you who listened to Charlie's episode, we met on
all of our guests we meet on the streets.
We met on the streets and it was very dirty. So basically, a couple years back, my brother was visiting Korea and it was the first time we had the chance to drink together. So I took him out to Itaewon. Mm-hmm. And he's a huge dude and he got really drunk and passed out.
All right.
So basically, we couldn't stay in the bar. So we had to like lay him down somewhere. But right across the bar, there was this one restaurant where people have late night drunk food. So I laid him down and then I went inside to kind of like gather my bearings and drink.
Figure out what to do.
Yeah, figure out what to do.
This
and also
big 6 foot
yeah,
guy.
and hoping that he would wake up. And what were you doing there?
So it was my first night really out in the town. My buddy Chris was with me. I was visiting from Arizona. It had been the first time I was in Korea for 23 years.
Oh, shit, what?
Yeah, so this is like my first like coming home like to the motherland trip. And we went out to Itaewon. We did like a lap around the whole area. And we fell asleep around 7 o'clock. And around 1 o'clock in the morning, we both woke up and like, let's get the hell out of here. Like, let's go do something. We're here. Like, let's go out. But we're both kind of jet lagged. And so we went to like some vinyl bar. And then we ended up wanting to get something to eat. And I saw the spot. I'm like, let's go check this place out. Like,
wait, this was 7 a.m. in the morning?
No.
It was like 1 a.m. in the morning at this point.
Okay.
Wait,
no, it's probably like 2 or 3 at this point.
So I'm curious, were you already in there or did you walk past my passed out
I walked past you guys. I saw you guys outside and we went inside to eat and hang out. So
okay.
we've been there for a little bit.
I guess I was so focused on my stupid brother that I was like, yeah. But basically what happened was I was just in there just eating my udon and like thinking about my brother when suddenly this white middle-aged lady comes and hovers over my brother, and I can see that from the inside, right? So I was like kind of looking at her, and this bitch starts touching him.
Oh, damn, a cougar.
And so I ran. I was like, what the fuck? And I ran. And I was like, excuse me, what are you doing to my brother? And she was like, and then I don't even know. She went.
Wait. I just want to stop you there. It's so funny how your brother was passed out in the street and you're inside eating udon.
No, but I was looking at him. I never lost.
Okay.
You know, I was still a good sister.
All right. You had visuals on
your
brother
I did.
on the street.
So the minute she came over, like I already knew what she was. You know, I saw her hover, then I saw the touch. I like ran out. And I was like, "What are you doing to my brother? Stop!" And she really went from 0 to 100 and was like, "What the fuck did you say, you Korean whore?" I was like, "What?" And I was just so taken aback. I'm like, this is my actual brother and you are harassing him. And then she started shaking him and she was like, "How could you leave him on the street like this? How can you? I don't believe that you're a sister. What kind of fucking bitch ass sister would do this to her brother? I don't believe you. You're just some whore." I was like, okay, but can you still? And at this point, she was still like touching him and like shaking him. And keep in mind, he's super drunk. So she was shaking him and he puked because she was shaking him so hard. And I was like, "What are you doing? Get off of my brother." And then and this is the funny part, her husband comes along.
This ZZ top-looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
He had the longest beard going on.
Yeah.
He was like such a piece of trash.
And then,
scary guys.
No, they were literal pieces of trash. Like you can see that as well. Like I'm not even trying to be mean. But they start dissing me and Korea out of nowhere. You can take
Yeah,
it from
let me
here.
hop in here. So in the meantime, we're hanging out. My buddy Chris and I are hanging out in the restaurant. We've been drinking soju for a couple hours now at this point, and we're having a good time. And we're making friends with the owner, June. And we suddenly hear like, "Shut the fuck up, you Korean whore!" And we're like, "What is going on?" And everybody in the restaurant can hear it. And I'm getting annoyed now because
Hushmama always creates a scene. Like wherever she goes.
it was a scene. And so June, the owner, he goes out. He's like, "Hold on." And I'm like, "Oh, I'll come outside and just like maybe I can help de-escalate this," because I don't know if there was a language barrier going on. I don't know how he just casually throws out "fuck you, you American whore" or Korean whore. So I went out and. Twice, like June was like, no, go sit down. And by the third time I come out, because it had been going on for like 10 minutes now.
She was just, so mean to me.
She wanted to fight.
Yeah.
She was on one. And
it was very much only directed to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then your sister's or your friend's brother was there, like also getting the brunt of it. And he said he got pushed around.
No, so basically what had happened was she and her husband started saying like, "Fuck Korea, you fucking loser Koreans." Because I was like, I'm going to call the police. Like, you're harassing us right now, and I'm going to call the police. And then my friend's brother was there because he was the bar manager of the bar across the street. Mm-hmm. So he came and he was like, yo, like, let's stop. And he was trying to de-escalate. So you know what she did? She started elbowing the shit out of him. Like, she like basically got him to bend over somehow, and she was like slamming her elbow.
I missed all that.
Yeah, she was slamming her elbow into his back, and obviously he's a big dude too. He could have fought, but everyone, like June, the owner, was like, "Everybody, let's calm down," because Korea, if you're not familiar with the Korean like laws of engaging in fights with strangers, is that you can't hit back. So even if someone else starts the fight, the minute you fight back, even if it's for self-defense, basically the victim ends up being who gets hurt the most. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so he was just taking the beating. Right. And I was like, "Stop, what are you doing? Like, get away, like leave." And then we're calling the police, and she was like, and then the husband was like, "Do you think we're afraid of your pussy-ass Korean police? We're from the U.S. military." Like,
and
we're
they were
American.
past curfew. They were definitely not military.
They were not active military.
The third time I come out at this point, and I look at these guys, I'm like, "Hey guys, what do we do to get this night on with? Like, can you guys just move on with your feelings right now, and we can just forget this whole situation? It's not looking good. Like, can you guys go?" Mm-hmm. And then out of nowhere, zzZani Top yells out, "You have America to thank for all of this."
Yeah.
And I saw red. I didn't know what my level of nationalism to patriotism, like where my threshold lies, but it was right then and that when he said that, and I lost my shit. I saw red and I was like, "You're being a fucking asshole right now. Shut the fuck up." Yeah. I said, "You're a guest in this country. Don't fucking forget that. You're a guest.
Preach.
And you're over here flying your false flag bullshit, but you're really just an asshole. You need to get out of here." And he tried to step to me, and right then the Korean police rolled up and ended the whole situation.
No, it was so funny. The Korean police just saw them and rolled their eyes, and they were telling me like, "Oh, they're regulars at our station."
Oh, right. Wow.
Okay. So they just go around and just like harassing people.
Oh, that's terrible.
Meanwhile, my brother was sleeping through the entire thing.
Lucky.
But anyways, yeah, so that's how we met.
Mm-hmm. So I walked back into a clapping, like an ovation, because I guess an American guy going after standing up for another American.
Yeah,
because speaking of that, we should talk about your background because it is also interesting, right? So,
sorry, what do you want to finish what you were saying first?
No, I was just gonna say
okay.
When you like jumped in, you were like, "I'm American, but I don't feel that way," or something like that.
I don't even remember.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just so pissed off. But so I'm half Korean. My dad met my mom in Osan back in the late 70s, and so I was actually born in Daegu in 83, and I don't speak much Korean. I speak enough to like ask for food and scold children.
That's all you need.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so I live after Korea, we moved to Australia, back to Korea, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Germany.
Wow.
And then I graduated high school from Germany in 2001, and then I moved to Arizona. And I've been there for 18 years now. Mm-hmm. So the Korea trip was a big deal for me because it was like reconnecting with family.
I actually hadn't realized. I always thought you just came kind of regularly, but wow.
Now I'm trying to come regularly.
But that's not even the end of our story. So that night I was pretty occupied because now I had that whole police situation, and then my brother had vomit all over him, and whatever. And then that was that. Like, it's not like we exchanged contact information or anything because it was hectic. Mm-hmm. But fast forward to like a couple of days later, a week later.
Chris was leaving.
Yeah, I'm in Gangnam, and I just walk out of a building and I see Chris and Justin, the same guys, and we were like shook. shook us
Like
to our core.
destiny.
Yeah, so we were like, okay, you know what? The universe wants us to be friends. Let's go grab a beer. So we did.
Cool.
Yeah, and we weren't even supposed to be there that night. We were going to Hongdae, and because we wanted to check it out, we hadn't partied there yet, and and then we stopped in Gangnam, and then we're like, "Oh, this is Gangnam Style. Let's get out. Let's go check it
Gangnam
out."
Style.
Yeah.
And then you see me.
Yeah, and we
you
were
see
wandering.
Hushmama.
We were wandering for like 20, 30 minutes, and then I hear out of the blue, and I always remember this. I heard, "Oh my god, oh my god!" And,
Oh, is that what I said?
Yeah, you said, "Oh my god!" Like you were like flabbergasted that
Yeah.
we were walking there, and I mean, what are the chances a week later? And
I know.
you had like one student for your English class, and
Yeah,
you weren't
yeah.
even planning to maybe not do it. You weren't talking about like canceling class because there's only one
Yeah,
student that
I
night.
know. It was fated.
Yeah,
That is an epic meetup story because not only did you guys meet once, coincidentally, you guys met twice.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
So yeah, we're pretty good. We're friends now.
Yeah. Wait, so Justin, tell us what you've been doing on this trip this time around.
So this trip feels great because it's not like last time I came here, I was here for 5 weeks. It was a really big trip for me, and I had to see family and I had to reconnect with people here. And I felt like I had to do a lot of things while I was here. Like I had to like see as much as I could and experience like being in Korea again. But this trip for me is a lot more laid back, and it's more about spending time with my family and reconnecting with you and hanging out and making new friends. And so I'm trying to come here with more of a purpose of like doing things with photography. I don't have this pressure to like, oh, do all the Korean things.
Right, be a tourist.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm, my cousin insists on taking me everywhere. I'm like, I'm self-sufficient, man. I'm 36. I can go walk around. I can catch a subway
I can
somewhere.
order food and scold babies in
Yeah,
Korea.
exactly.
I got this.
So this trip is just trying to establish like a regular connection with being here. And so I think I expect to be back at least once every 2 years, if not every year.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good interval. So, Shin, do you want to start us off with the photog stuff?
Well, I kind of wanted to ask Justin about his professional background and what he's doing as a professional photographer.
Sure. I'll give you like the timeline. I've been doing photography since 2004, so about 15 years now.
Wow.
And when I first started, I was doing automotive photography because I was like 20, 21, and I was really into that hot import scene, like that Fast and the Furious.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're that age and a camera is like your passport, it's your backstage pass to everything you want to be close to.
Oh, cool.
And that's how it always has been for me in my life. Like even now in my photography, having a camera seems to give me access to things that I would normally be a spectator to, but now I get to participate in them.
Oh, cool.
So Formula D and D1, all these cool drift events were coming to the U.S., and I was photographing them. And I actually very quickly in my photography career was already shooting features for some of the import magazines. Like,
Wow.
Nice. I looked at those as a kid.
Yeah, D Sport magazine is
Not
still
for
around.
the cars, though.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
D Sport magazine. I've had stuff published in Super Street and Modified, but all those magazines are gone now because that industry got hit very hard during the recession because print was dying.
And like
Right,
half
it
of it
really-
was like parts catalogs, right? Like, yeah.
So and I got out of that industry because it didn't pay very well. So I'd be chasing down these features and I'd be staying on friends' couches in California, all to just make back my money on being out there. But it was a fun experience. So I always had a day job. I was working at Office Depot, selling computers and working in the print shop, and then I ended up working for a print company called Alpha Graphics, which led to my last full-time job was a missile defense company in Tucson. And so I was there for 4 years. And then they laid me off, and that was 6 years ago. So my friend and I had always talked about when we would go for walks on our breaks, and we'd be like, what would you do if you got laid off or you got let go here? And I always thought, I think I would try and start my photography business. We kind of mused about it, but never really was like, there was no game plan. And when I got laid off right before I turned 30, like a week before.
Wow.
And that's like a critical moment, I think, in a
Yeah,
man's life. You guys aren't there yet, but like...
Quarter life. Well, I am.
Yeah.
I'm right there.
Oh, yeah. But I thought I would have a lot of things pretty worked out in my life, that I would have a solid idea. Like the work thing I thought would be taken care of, and it was. So they really pulled the rug out from underneath me. But I started my business, and at the time I had a girlfriend who was living with me with her son, and I was was
The breadwinner?
yeah. I mean, I was carrying our household. I have to be careful. She's going to be listening to this at some
okay.
point. We're still friends, so no. But I had a lot of pressure on me to sustain the household, and I ate into savings. I had to eat into some 401k to keep things afloat. And after like 6 months, I managed to build my website, get my Google ranking up really high for page 1 of Tucson wedding photographers.
Nice.
And then I was priced very competitively for my marketplace. So I was getting like 2-3 inquiries a day for the entire month of January, and I booked up my whole year in that first month because of the Google ranking climbing
That's
the
amazing.
algorithm.
In 6 months too. That's actually
Yeah.
really, really fast. Wait, so did you jump right into wedding photography right off the bat?
So I've been shooting weddings on the side for at least 10 years. The first wedding I ever shot was like 2005. So yeah, my first wedding was probably 2005, but I started shooting them more regularly, like 2007, 2008. Like by 2009, it was like a comfortable side gig.
And would you say weddings are your primary gigs now?
Now there's a shift in my business. So the company that let me go is now my number one client.
Oh, wow.
How the tables have turned.
Yeah.
It bothered me more. Like every year used to be a milestone where like, 2 years ago on this day, 3 years ago, I didn't know what my fate would be. Like I would wax poetic about it. And now I'm on year 6 and I'm like, I think I'm over it.
Yeah.
I
think I got this.
Yeah. But no, it feels good to know that, that they let me go in a very uncertain time of my life, and that it came back full circle, and that I reached all the goals that I needed to reach to be able to support the work that they need from me. So it's a big deal.
That's amazing. I feel like, so do you think if they had never laid you off, you never would have made taken the plunge?
Never would have taken the plunge. Like that's a big thing, to leave a 401k, health insurance, and
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true.
however paltry my pay was, I was still pretty set. I bought my first house because of that job. I paid off my first sports car.
It's a missile defense company.
Yeah.
But I was like low totem pole. Like I wasn't.
Still.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
And you also have quite a social media following, and we're definitely going to be plugging that into our Instagram and all of our websites. But this kind of segues into the first topic I want to talk about. So you are a professional photographer. You do weddings and you do corporate gigs. You also do social media. And with the developments in smartphone technology and people increasingly uploading increasingly high quality photos, how has the smartphone changed professional photography?
I don't like how it has affected me personally. I don't feel like it's changed the objectives of like the work that I do and the gear that I use. And the thing about photography in general is that amateurism is rampant. The biggest consumer market of cameras I would have to think is amateurs, and the professional market is shrinking in terms of like that's the smallest portion of cameras being sold is to professional photographers.
Right.
So I don't really feel like smartphones are affecting that. Although every now and then you'll hear the random in our like news cycle. There's this number of photography blogs that talk about our industry. You'll hear the random like man shoots an entire wedding with an iPhone. This was like back in like the iPhone 4 or 5. There was like people who tout themselves as iPhone photographers, which is hilarious to me. But in my industry, amongst my peer circle, and I know some really great professionals around the country and even around the world, and we're very big about the photography as an experience and as a deliverable product. And that's where you want to put print into people's hands. Print has really been kind of pushed aside in their digital age. But when there's a disaster and people are leaving their house, like if a hurricane comes and or a flood, Katrina floods, like people grab their wedding albums or they grab prints. Like that's the only thing that you can salvage from, a disaster like that. So people don't put enough importance on print. And I like the idea of a photo being something physical that I can put in somebody's hands.
For sure.
So I don't know if like smartphones have affected me personally, because what I'm after to share with people is an experience as far as weddings are concerned. So I don't think the smartphone industry has affected me in that way.
Yeah, for sure, because people aren't going out like taking smartphone photos of weddings, and that's like hurting your sales or hurting your clients. Like that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
So then another question, would you still say that you need big cameras and big gear to shoot your pro gigs? I mean, of course you can get really good quality photos being a professional photographer with a low budget camera, but most wedding photographers do have big gear.
Yeah, and I think it's going to continue to be that way. There is a movement to shrink things a little bit as far as the camera size. There's, as you know, like mirrorless cameras are making the physical size of the camera smaller now. And I like working with lighter equipment because for a wedding, I'll wear two cameras at the same time with multiple lenses, and it's heavy. And now at this phase of my career, everything I do is a correction of shitty process and me trying to figure out how to mitigate like damage to my body. I've worked double and triple header wedding weekends carrying two cameras for 10 hours a day, and by the fourth day, like, you know, after the third day of weddings, like I'm getting a massage that day, like no problem, like I gotta get that done. So everything I do now is to preserve my body. So smaller is definitely
so important.
Yeah, it's the trend is smaller, but there's still something to be said about larger form factor cameras for the ergonomics, how they handle, and the weather sealing. The professionality of the cameras is it's on a different level than me operating.
It has to be reliable, right?
Yeah.
You can't have an equipment break down in the middle of a wedding shoot.
Yeah, I'm hard on gear, and I carry backup gear, and I'm prepared for things to fail. So I carry at least 5 flashes on a wedding day, and if one fails, I still have 4 more to take its place. Like I have everything in place I have backups on backups. So that's what being a professional means to me, is that if something happens to the equipment that I brought, that I can still continue to do my job, and that's what should separate a professional from somebody who's an amateur or an aspiring type.
That's a very, very valid point.
Yeah, you got to be able to weather the conditions.
Wait, so then I am curious, like how often do you take photos directly from your phone just because you were too lazy to bring out all your big equipment?
So like on a trip right now, my preferred like means of creating like nugget, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a small term for content, nuggets of content nuggets. Like my phone is probably my preferred way. I've got a Pixel 2 XL, which is about, it's going to be replaced here with another iteration of the phone. The 4 is coming soon. But the portrait mode on it and the way it handles low light photography at night and how sharp the images are, and you have to consider the audience and the medium. And the medium is usually Instagram or Instagram stories, which you can't scale. Like you can't zoom in on those images. So they will only be seen as far as you can look at it without
Size
zooming
of your
in.
hand.
Yeah. So when you consider content, the medium for it and the final resting place, when it's just Instagram and Facebook, the phone is pretty much enough for like 90% of what I'm shooting right now. Like I can be creative. I can still worry about composition, have like a hierarchy of subjects and where my eye is drawn to. Like I'm still shooting with a photographic mind when I'm using a camera, when I'm using my phone, regardless.
Right. And that's actually kind of one thing that I want to talk about is what's really great about the smartphone, in my opinion, as a kind of amateur person who is interested in photography. What the smartphone has done is it takes away all of the knobs and the settings, and it allows the person to just focus on 2 things, which is essentially content, what I'm taking a photo of, and then what you just mentioned too, composition. And I think those 2, are the key ingredients to making a really, really good photo. And I think just eliminating all the knobs that cameras have has really allowed users to kind of focus. And if everyone's using the same gear, the only difference that's really going to matter is composition and content.
Yeah, I still think the fundamentals of photography are important. I mean, it's always going to be important to make a compelling image, but now the barrier to access is so minimal. Like expensive gear is not expensive anymore. We're in this golden era of equipment where cameras that were made in the last 5 years are all very capable of putting out professional work. Yeah. And now there's a big used market for gear that was professional by standards 5 years ago, and it still cuts the mustard now. So.
Yeah, you'll still be able to create billboards with them. And another thing then, on the flip side of the good things about using professional gear or traditional photography gear, I think, is learning the skills and the tools of a traditional camera allows you to understand all of the technology that's built into the smartphone. So when you're using a smartphone camera, you don't know about aperture, you don't know about exposure, you don't know about shutter speed, you don't know about ISO, but if you do know about these camera settings in the traditional sense, you know that your smartphone is still doing all of these things inside when you're taking a photo. So I really do think knowing those kind of traditional skills and those traditional ways of how photos are composed really does translate in the smartphone, even if you're not manually tweaking them all the time.
And I know that if I'm taking a photo at night, I know that the camera needs to stay open a little bit longer on the shutter to let in more light. And even though it's image stabilized, if I move at all, there will be camera shake. So I have to compensate for that. And I know that I got to be a little more certain with my photo. I can't be walking, running, and gunning versus when I'm in daylight, I can snap while walking knowing that it's using a faster shutter speed to let in less light because it's so bright out. So I know those limitations of what the camera is doing, and I'm still going to work around them because of my experience with other cameras.
True. So then you are a gigging photographer. So when you are a gigging photographer, you need to create something that the customer needs. But there's a lot of photography on social media where they're not, serving any client. They're taking photos as an art or as a culture.
Personal brand. As
a personal brand. So do you think that the smartphone has really opened up the world of that type of photography to people that didn't come from traditional walks of photography?
Yeah, I think interestingly enough, it's given rise to people who only know that tool as their media, their form of creation. And their influence, I hate that word influencers, but now that's such a thing that it's being recognized in our industry, in my industry, because today, it's coincidental that we're even talking about this topic today, but today Pro Photo, which you can gather by the name, is our high-end luxury lighting brand in our industry. And they used to be more studio-based, like their products were targeted towards, if you were like a fashion photographer in New York, you were shooting with Pro Photo packs or another company called Broncolor. And Pro Photo only marketed to that. It was a very elite section of the market. They were the 1% of our market they were after. So they were putting out a more luxury, high-end lighting experience. Now, because they are trying to capture more of our market, they have worked on more location lighting equipment. So there's stuff that's like portable batteries that allow you to do this stuff on location. Because it's hard to bring out a whole studio kit on location, but now you can because of the lithium batteries and stuff. So we're able to bring this stuff up. We're able to do outdoor studio work. It's easier than it's ever been in my career. But Pro Photo today released a product news of a product that is basically like a softball. It's like a grapefruit-sized camera that you handhold, and it's a round light, and it's like a LED light with changing colors, and you can connect it to your cell phone, and it'll also flashlight to when you take a picture. So the whole video that they use to promo this product is a influencer using a cell phone and doing photos with this light in his hand. And so they're marketing to people who are using not professional, which we wouldn't consider that professional lighting equipment, but Pro Photo has now made a professional light for people who take pictures with their cell phone.
Right.
And they're getting slammed for it in all the social media circles right now. So everything I've seen has been very negative towards it from people who are aspiring and professional, even amateur photographers, because they're recognizing that this is it's a big contradiction in Pro Photo's marketing and their focus on who they're serving in our market. So they're now acknowledging the blogger or
maybe they are the most important photographers now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that says something about them or if it says something about the state of our industry.
That is very interesting. I'd like to ask Hushmama a question then, because Hushmama obviously isn't like super into photography, but she takes really good photos. She's on Instagram. She posts stuff all the time. What do you think of when you see the smartphone and when you think of cameras and taking photos?
So I do feel like smartphone cameras have introduced this level of fresh importance in our digitally mediated world. And essentially now, just having a smartphone camera, I feel like we're all like citizen photojournalists, right? Because if you think about it, I don't know, when I was younger, like, I don't remember wanting to take pictures of my mundane everyday life. Like, even if, I'm not even talking about us taking pictures now specifically for social media or anything. Even if I don't post it on my stories or post it anywhere, actually, I will just take pictures of my coffee for no reason. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you think about it, I'm like, what am I really doing? What am I going to do with this picture?
It's kind of become a habit almost.
Like, for example, I have a friend And I'm not bashing her for it. I think she has
Just
a
bash her.
wonderful.
Just do it. Call her out right
Shut
now.
up. No, I think
Name names.
no, but basically, for example, my friends, we all went on a hike. Well, I didn't participate, but I met up with them after. And then she took a picture of my other friend's sweaty back because there was a hair. And she was like, oh, I love this. I'm going to post it on Instagram. And it was like, would we have done that if it wasn't for this? And I'm not even talking about smartphone cameras and like Instagram, really. It's just like the state of how everyone's taking pictures of everything.
Yeah, and it's easily accessible.
Yeah.
And you always have a camera on
and
you.
everything just, ties in together, I feel like. And it's just really an interesting phenomenon if you think about it.
I think that's why people are nostalgic for film and the scarcity of the medium and the barrier to access. It usually was more privileged photographers to have access to the light, the dark room, and all the film and the gear. And so, in my city, I know a lot of photographers who have been doing photography for a long time, like 20, 30 plus years, and they're holdovers from the film era. And I know one guy in particular who talks about how, I remember when there was only like 5 of us wedding photographers, like 5, because now there's like. There's probably like at least 50 who I can think of right now in my town, and I run a group on Facebook for aspiring and professional photographers. So I've got like 3,000 members, and then every time I see someone wanting to join the group, and they're talking about, I want to start my photography business, and I'm like, why do you want to start a photography business? Enjoy your hobby and get a job.
As Shin puts down his business proposal that he was gonna. Just kidding.
No, but and. I don't want to be discouraging to people. I think if you have a dream that you want to get into photography and you have a knack for it, but I don't know what the positive feedback loop is for that that's making all these people think, oh, yeah, I can make money doing this. And you can, but the life cycle of a professional photographer is like 5 years, and I see a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people flame out.
Yeah.
Well, humble flex alert. Justin's been in the game for 15
6 years.
Oh,
6 years.
Oh, right, 6 years.
Full time for 6 years. I've been supporting myself for 6 years.
That's awesome, though.
But it's a really, I think, Justin, you kind of talked about this before. Like for you, photography hasn't really been taking the photo when you first started out. For you, photography has been about the experience and using photography as a way to be in places, to be with people, and to capture that moment. And I think for aspiring photographers, one thing that's really, really important, I think it's not about the gear. It's not about like buying a really expensive camera and really liking to take photos. I think it's really about the experience and that creative process. And if you have that, then I think, maybe photography might be right for you.
And I think like it varies from photographer to photographer. I know photographers who, while they still love like what we do, I know how business minded they are, and they look at everything from like
a monetary,
like the maximum value for their time that they spend on their crafts. Like how much like can they earn? Like
and which industry is going to get the biggest money?
And they're tracking like they're doing like ROIs and like how much time they spend with the client and how much money they're getting from that experience with them versus how long they spend at the wedding, on consultations, on sales session afterward to sell them product. Like they've got it down to a science. I'm not that business minded. I want to get there. I don't know how they feel about waxing poetic about the philosophically, like how do they feel about, like for me,
like the art as an art form or as an experience.
And I know, and I have some friends who pull in 6 figures in their studios. Like they shoot weddings high end. They've got offshoots of their brands. They've got affiliates. Like there's they've got a whole process down. And I'm not that big, but I don't know. Like I see that what they're experiencing and what they're after. But then I'm the guy that like, I had a great time at the wedding party and we're in a cool place. Like, hell yeah, let's after party. And like I've gotten drunk with, like I don't drink at weddings, but I've after partied in Mexico with a couple and we ended up like finding like a live rock band cover. I'm having like a glitch in my head right now. A live cover rock band where they were doing like a backyard party. It was it was Mexico's like greatest rock band.
Wow.
Ever. Like having a house party. Time. And so, we walked over with a bottle of Tito's and I used some broken Spanish to let them know we had a bride and groom here. And we got the whole wedding party in and we partied till like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Wow.
So,
that's insane.
that's the experience I'm after. Like I'm after the connection and being with people. And the photography is just a vessel to show them back like the experience that they had and then what's special about people. Like I just want to present to people what's special about them in photos. Like I either want to tell their stories or share their experience back to them.
Right.
And I don't know if everybody feels the same way about their work. Some people are more business minded. I feel like I'm a little bit in the middle with that. I'd like want to make the most amount of money I can doing this, but I'm authentic about the experience of it all and like what it means to me too.
Yeah, and you would definitely need both. It's kind of related to being an influencer on Instagram. Like, yeah, you can live the ritzy and jazzy and lavish life, but they're very business oriented, you know, like every photo they take, everywhere they go, like it's very, you know, there's a lot of thought put into it. So,
or a company sponsored the trip.
yeah.
And I'm in a place with my brand where I'm trying to reconcile what it is I'm trying to communicate to people, because most of the people that follow me on Instagram are actually other photographers. So I bring in new business every now and then, and I have brides and grooms who follow my work, potentially new clients who follow it too. But I think my biggest audience is actually other photographers. So I know that there's more value for me to show a behind the scenes look at the work that I'm doing. Lately, though, it's been like the food I eat and the drinks that I'm having and like
A1 content right there.
But it's like my personal brand. Like who I am as a person is somebody who like I love what I do with photography. I want to share that with other photographers because I do present, I do teach other photographers. I run workshops. I've gone to conferences and spoken about like what I do. And I want to help other people with their goals in photography, whether they're usually skill-based. Like I love talking skill-based photography.
Right, like technical stuff.
Yeah, I want to teach lighting to people.
Yeah, that's always the most difficult, lighting.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. Go ahead.
Nope, I lost it.
Now
you did.
I'm just a dick.
How dare you?
Well, I kind of wanted to bring us back to everyday smartphone photography and talk about how back then, like you said, there were only a few photographers because it's hard. You know, you need a development room and you got to use film. But now, since everyone and anyone can take photos, people do it. But I think that has made photography that much more important, not just for photography, but how you kind of promote yourself. So let's say I'm not a photographer. Let's say I'm someone who sells paper. My photography skills is going to be very important to my business, to my job, or any other career that I have, like photography, since it's so important to everything I do and it's prevalent. I think it's now a kind of semi like essential skill.
I could see that. Yeah, if you're a business owner and
But even as a person, like if you need to market yourself, or let's say I want to
I didn't get the paper thing. You mean to take pictures of your paper products?
Okay, well, paper. Yeah, that was a bad example.
Because I was wondering if you meant because you need to print the pictures on
No, I got
paper.
what
Yeah,
you're
okay.
saying.
That
My
paper was a
bad.
bad example, but not just the business. Let's say like I'm a person.
Paper company.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say I'm just a normal dude and I take really good photos of where I hang out. I take really good photos of myself. I take really good photos of, just make it really interesting. That makes you an interesting person.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not saying that that's essential for you to become an interesting person, but to have those photography skills definitely
It's always
magnifies
a plus. It's always a plus, yeah, for sure.
these other areas of your life.
We have, we're in this weirdly unprecedented time where Instagram and social media and Facebook, it is not just a social interface. It is the number one best method of marketing to a group of people, very specifically. The demographic based targeting ads that happen.
Right.
So specific.
I've never felt so
Violated?
targeted in my life with you used to be going to I go in my mailbox and I got the dandy dime with like deals from Applebee's and like weird shit that I would never use. So it's junk. It's paper junk. It goes in the recycle. Now I scroll through Instagram and I'm like, oh shit, that watch is cool. Or like, damn, I do want those new Adidas shoes. And I've bought so many things off of being targeted by ads, but it's relevant to my interests. So we have this amazing platform where we're conflating personal brand with actual big brands, and then the lifestyle is selling into that brand or personal brand. So it's a weird time right now where I don't feel like anything is authentic anymore. It's not. We're being socially conditioned to just
for sure
honestly
buy cool shit and look cool in it.
Because I'm in the PR marketing industry, this comes up all the time because at the end of the day, every brand now wants to be authentic, because what used to sell back in the day was, just blatant ads, but now consumers won't buy shit if your brand doesn't feel or present itself authentically.
And
right?
that's a big thing and I've heard this because of millennials are big on that and Gen Z. So
for sure,
where authenticity is a big deal, and that's why I don't feel bad for companies like I bring up Applebee's because I hear how millennials have killed Applebee's
it's all
in
about
America.
Chili's. No, just kidding.
Yeah, like it's funny to me. Like you mean because we're after a personalized experience that feels like somebody else personally worked on it. Like I want to go to a local small business and support a business like that. And so I'm not surprised when I see that millennials are killing napkins and Applebee's.
Well, just because we talked about authenticity, it's so interesting because even a decade ago, I've heard photographers that they were worried if digital technology would undermine the craft of analog photography and its authenticity. So what do you think about that? Because, you're using a lot of technology right now.
Yeah, the way I look at it is that digital photography offers me the ability to do my job better. And there are still photographers I know who shoot film as a counterculture to the digital age. So they do it very well. And to shoot film now, you've got to commit yourself to the cost of the medium. I've shot rolls of film that I haven't developed in the last year because it's, I'm probably out, I'm out for the roll of film, and then development's probably like $10 to $15. And then if you want prints from developing that's whole, you could easily spend $50 on getting pictures printed from a roll of film.
Wow.
And, unless you get get it developed and get the I forgot what, the actual film back.
Right.
Why can't I think of the actual word?
Negatives.
Yeah, the negatives.
The negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even remember
I was
the
like,
word.
what professional word is he?
Yeah, there's a word. Negatives. Yeah, if I get the negatives back, then I can scan it and put it into the computer. And then I'm just taking a analog form and putting it back into digital.
Oh.
Anyway, so
that's what Koreans do. I go to the film district where they all develop films, and they all go out in their hipster analog film cameras, and essentially it's for Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they don't even print it. They just get the negatives and they...
Yeah,
Really?
and it feels
Yeah.
pretentious to me a little bit. Like, I don't like people... I don't like it when people start puffing their chest out about
the
shooting film.
Whose balls are bigger, about shooting what form, what camera do you shoot with? There's pros and cons to everything. It's all tools to me.
For sure.
And, it's funny, nobody really asks a painter, what brand is your paintbrush? Maybe what paints do you use? But in photography, photographers are obsessed with wanting to know what your gear is. So it's just gear. We're big on gear porn, and we want to know.
Gear porn.
Yeah, we call it
It
gear
is
porn.
important.
Yeah.
It is important. And that makes a large percentage of people who, that's what they're interested in. They're more interested in the gear than getting out there and getting the photo.
Yeah.
One thing about film, though, that I talk about is I do respect people who want to shoot film and want to take that extra time and energy to create film. And of course, there's colors and textures that only film can create. But I don't respect people that think that film photography is the only way to create art photography. That, I think, just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me, it's about the most important thing, especially because I work with people, is connection. And can I show somebody connected? Can I connect with a subject and show that in an image and be able to demonstrate a sense of place, time, and story about a person? That's my favorite thing, is to photograph somebody and show them in their place of work, rest, or play hopefully with an interesting story or a talent or a skill. So I love just meeting people we were talking about the other day about I got tattooed here. When I come back, my goal now is to get tattooed every time in Korea.
Nice.
And the first time, it was such an interesting experience because I understand it's technically illegal here because you have to be a medical practitioner. So no doctors out here giving dope tattoo game, unless they're I think it's more of a cosmetic thing. I think there's, was it for if you're doing your eyeliner, you can get tattooed.
Which is technically still illegal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So the experience of it was cool because I ended up the guy's place was totally off the grid. He definitely doesn't want to be seen.
Right.
But his Instagram following is crazy. Uzi Tattoo. He's got since I last saw him, he's got almost 650,000 followers now on Instagram. And in the last 5 years alone, it's my understanding that Instagram has made the Korean tattoo market surge.
Oh, for
It
sure.
really has.
And so all my tattooer friends back in Arizona know all the artists out here. That every time I go on a new account, I see my friends kids following them on the followed by.
And I feel like if I wasn't, obviously I'm not a professional in the subject, I just really like tattoos, but I feel like Instagram has also made it possible for a lot of tattoo artists to travel around and guest at all these different locations all over the world. So cool. So much collabs going on.
So I was trying to get back in with Uzi when I came back here, and I've been talking to him for like 8 months ago when I booked this trip. I was like, hey, I'm coming, and he's like,
He left you on red.
He messaged me on October. He's like, message me in August. I messaged him. We share some emails, and then I didn't get back to his email within a couple days, and he gave the appointment away that he had opened for me, and I was a little pissed off about that. I'm like, man, I didn't realize there was like a time limit, and our time difference sucks. So I was like, he hit me on like a Friday night, and I had a wedding on Saturday, maybe Sunday morning. I got back to him, and then.
That sucks.
I found this other girl, Nadi Tattooer, Nadi under a tattooer.
I like how you're plugging her Instagram.
Yeah, no, I do. But
shout out to Nadi Tattooer.
No, she's dope though. So and her place, like they advertise it as a tattoo studio on the top floor of this building, and the experience was a lot different. And she speaks a little bit of English, and I brought my camera because I totally wanted to photograph a portrait of her. So I took a really cool portrait of her after the experience. And now it's getting my wheels spinning about coming back to Korea to strictly photograph tattoo artists here and maybe tell their story and do some video content and try to make it my next like photo project. So come back. I think it'd be cool because I feel like Korean tattooers are probably the real rebel tattoo artists now, because in America it's so casual now. Like I go get a cup of coffee and my barista's got a fucking throat tattoo. And it's like, oh, like we're just gonna do that now.
Thug life.
Yeah.
We're just gonna do that now. Throat tattoos and hand tattoos. It's
Actually, fun fact: I've actually seen someone. It wasn't Starbucks. I think it was maybe not a cafe. It was a server, and on the throat, I think it said porn star, and it was a guy.
Was this in the States? Or?
Yeah, the States.
Okay.
Oh, I was like, here? That's cool. I want to see that here. Show me where that's at.
That would be crazy.
But it's so we're overlooking it more, or we're a society is now just like, okay, we're tattooed now. But in Korea, like these are the real rebel tattoo. It's the real rebel tattoo thing to me.
Yeah,
because
it kind of gets like to the root of the art, right?
Yeah.
It's not, because tattoo has never been about being like mainstream culture. It's always been about being a little bit counter, a little bit
Subversive,
dangerous,
yeah.
a little bit subversive, and that's really the conditions here are really conducive towards that.
Yeah, and so she was interesting as fuck. Like she had dreads going on, and she dressed differently, but she still had flawless makeup, of course. And then,
of course,
I'm just like,
skincare is key.
But to me, like I know, like that's not easy to be a tattoo artist or to be tattooed, because as soon as your family finds out, like it's a big deal,
Yeah,
it's
the
frowned
stigma.
upon. Yeah, so there's got to be a lot of cool stories there. Like I want to meet people and see like what their stories are. Did you have to run away from home to be a tattoo artist? Like
you have to do it. You have to come back and do a whole photo series.
Yeah,
that'd
so
be awesome.
that's my next trip goal. Like I'm trying to figure out a way to make that story happen and tell that story. So.
Yeah.
And we'll have you back on the podcast as well.
Oh yeah, and then we can talk about it. Perfect. And we'll go full circle there.
Yeah,
just
I want
like...
to come back and talk about dating in Korea.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been loving all the episodes.
You need to get some experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, oh my God. So, okay, I know what I wanted to ask. Since Justin specializes in, wedding photography, I was curious if you had any crazy stories about like bridezillas or just, I don't know, shit that went down.
I wish I had some like really juicy stuff. I've got a lot of friends who I wonder if I even like hint at what I've heard of some of their stories, if they would hear this and then be like, well, I can't believe you told that. And then I have one bride experience I'd love to talk about, but she follows me on social media. So
that's true. Actually, yeah, you should be careful because I feel like that might ruin your business.
This is how professional Justin is, everybody. He is not even going to dish out any private or personal stories because he's a pro.
I didn't even sign an NDA.
Oh,
he didn't even sign an NDA, but this is how pro he is.
Yeah,
guys.
that is some level of dedication.
No, I've heard some pretty crazy stories about like grooms who cheated on the bride before the wedding, got caught, and
got it photographed.
Like no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just like, wait, what's the role of the photographer here?
Like a bride that was being forced to sign a prenup the day before the wedding at the wedding rehearsal,
damn.
and they became this like huge family argument. Like, oh man, I'm trying to think of like I know I have some friends who've hooked up with bridesmaids at weddings after photographing their wedding.
Actually, I was gonna ask that. Like, did you ever have a bride or groom like kind of hit on you or flirt with you a little too much?
Yeah, I've gotten some some definite photographer attention, especially when the night got a little more boozy.
Yeah.
But at most of my wedding career, I've had a girlfriend, so I've always been very good about managing that. But
Yeah.
I have like, oh God, I hope she doesn't hear this. But I ended up like having a little bit of a fling with the bridesmaid, but it wasn't until after the wedding we bumped into each other at a corporate function
Oh, okay.
that I was photographing, and she was there as a plus one.
Yeah.
And like it was like, but I know it probably could have happened at the wedding after
Yeah.
that. So
Oh, but you're just that professional. You're like, I'm gonna wait until I run into her somewhere else.
No, it didn't occur to me.
You didn't even ask for her number, like you.
At the wedding, no. But
Wow.
but also, I don't shit where I eat. You
Yeah.
know, because you don't want the reputation of the wedding photographer
That's
who's like,
so
I'm
true.
pretty sure the wedding photographer hit on my sister. And I'm like, no, that wasn't me.
Mind control level 100.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah, but the opportunity is always like there. I've partied with wedding parties. We had a good time. So
Well, Justin, that was freaking awesome. Like, I'm sorry we don't have more time to talk about it, but we're going to definitely have you back.
For sure. About like dating life, your dating life, or, just more photography, just whatever.
Yeah. The shenanigans in Korea. Hopefully
down.
you get into like another fight.
yeah, no, I want to talk more about like
Oh, yeah.
being half Korean and that experience, and then
Oh, yeah,
being
so
a half Korean who
interesting.
doesn't speak any English or doesn't speak any Korean in this country.
I
you
just
know?
realized Justin and me, since we're both half Korean, us combined, we're like, there's 2 full Koreans in this room.
Finally.
Damn.
We finally make a whole.
We are 2.0.
Well, thanks for having me on. I had a great
No,
time. This
thank
was
you
fun.
so much for coming.
So interesting.
And you finally found out how we met. So there's that.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
we had to hold that in for that whole night. We were hanging out. I wanted to talk about the story. So I was like, no, it's going to be better on
Yeah.
air.
Let's go make another story, guys.